So coming up, Len, I'm so excited for this group of individuals. Our partner in PLEXUSS and JP, John, and Brad, and my colleague Amanda are here to talk with us about the great work that they're doing, and most importantly, really providing insight into more of the perceptions of students in this time of change. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Amanda Scott to start things off. Amanda?
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Heather. Thank you again for attending Innovate USA, and I am very excited about this last drawing. Maybe I should just register for that while you guys are presenting. So today, it's really hard to follow Dr. Andrea Jones-Roy. So good luck, you guys. I personally twinned her today. If you can't tell, we did not coordinate, but this is me trying to keep up with her. So thank you, Dr. Roy. So we are here today to debut Capture's partnership with PLEXUSS. This is brand new, hot off the presses. No one knows about it except you guys that are joining us today. First of all, again, if you weren't here yesterday, my name is Amanda Scott. I'm a senior director at Capture, and my job is to build strategic partnerships. And PLEXUSS is a strategic partner of Capture's for two reasons that I'll highlight in just a minute. But basically, we want to find people who optimize technology and help assist in thought leadership for our partners. You have a powerful trio today with you. You have JP Novin. JP Novin is CEO, chairman, and founder. So he has a trifecta of fancy titles there, but he is going to lead us through some of the data today. And we also have Dr. John Hall. Dr. John Hall is the Chief Strategy Officer, and you'll see his name listed on many of the white papers, which can be found on PLEXUSS's website and are very impactful. Brad Johnson, he's Business Development Vice President, and he is my peer at PLEXUSS. We work together to help serve our Capture partners. Working together, when we look for partnerships with other companies, the one thing that we look for is finding a mission synergy. With the synergy, we're looking to help find companies such as PLEXUSS because they connect students around the world, connect with colleges and universities on their platform. They use a digital platform to match 6 million students, which will soon be 8 million students, and that I've heard, a little teaser, in over 200 countries with 1,800 post-secondary institutions. Where we find this aligning is that Capture's mission is to find mission-fit students that fit the institution and help enrollment experts be able to connect with those students. So that is where we have our if you want to progress forward, Brad. So today with our partnership, there you go. Today with our partnership, we want to focus on thought leadership. 3 of my favorite past surveys are a new normal, presidential priorities, the class of 2020, COVID-19, and graduating. And then also, welcome to California. This was a University of California system-focused abandonment of standardized testing and what that means for not only the state of California, but the nation. But today, our friends at PLEXUSS have brought to Capture their June 2020 student perception survey that we're going to focus on. But more importantly, we want you to know that the reason that we've partnered together with this thought leadership is also to be able to bring the students that are on the platform with PLEXUSS to our Capture partners. So PLEXUSS gives Capture the ability to make student connections and feed those student connections to our partner institutions, which is a student who's expressly saying, I am interested in this institution, send me more information. So that is a really big ramp up on why we have decided to partner together, and I am going to pass it over to my friend Brad at this point.
Excellent. Amanda, thank you very much. And hopefully everyone on the presentation side can see my screen, and I hope it is visible. So we're very excited about the partnership and presenting today. Our Chief Strategy Officer, John Hall, I'll go ahead and let you tackle some of these questions, but again, it'll be very conversational as we go. So John, go ahead and take it away.
Great. Well, thank you, Brad, and Amanda. Thank you for that great introduction. We really appreciate it. My name is John Hall. I'm PLEXUSS's Chief Strategy Officer. Today, we'll be presenting some informative research we have conducted as it relates to student perceptions, including some data we are presenting for the first time today to all of you at Innovate. Before we do that, we want to tell you a little bit about PLEXUSS and our platform as it really enables the research that we do. Our platform is the largest platform of its kind. We have well over 6 million student users, and yes, we are getting to 8, and we hope to do that by the end of the year. Many of our students begin using us as early as their freshman year of high school, and they continue using the platform throughout their journey to college and then beyond. So we have a lot of information, a lot of engagement with students throughout high school and their evolving needs and preferences. All right, so it's been a real interesting time in higher education, dealing with the quote-unquote new normal. Everything from a very profound crisis in confidence in terms of the value and return of higher ed, events that have called into serious question the level of equity in post-secondary education, and of course, a declining market in terms of students. That new normal was before what everyone is referring to as the new normal now. Because of course, then there's been 2020. The existential change that was happening has been accelerated now by years. There's been a significant degradation of what we call consumer goodwill. When we talk about consumers, we're talking about students in terms of students' perceptions about education in general. And the marketplace in some ways has done a 180-degree switch. Look at community colleges. For the last several years, community college enrollment has been declining with double digits in most cases. Now, it appears that community colleges are going to see a surge of students this fall. So with that, let's discuss some of the research. Nearly 85% of students at this point have less confidence in the education system than they did in January of this year. And that number continues to decline. That number was about 78% at the end of May when we did our prior survey, prior to Memorial Day holiday. And now, with the events since, with the protests and a lot of the things important things that have taken center stage, education has suffered as an institution as well, just like government and many other institutions have been called into question. Now, let's talk about this, the feeling of a gap year. We've heard a lot of talk out there that this is going to be the largest gap year ever. A lot of students are just going to take the year off. We are not seeing that. We haven't seen that in any of our surveys to date. In fact, 93% in our last survey, and we're just releasing this today, over 93% of students who were planning on going to college this fall prior to COVID are still planning on going. Okay. Now, there's a big caveat with that. The caveat is that 55% of those students may still change their mind in terms of where they're going to go. So are students going to go to college this fall, seniors who are graduating high school? Yes, but their plans are not necessarily intact. Now, the good news is that the number is 55% versus close to 70%, which is where it was when we did our first survey after COVID took center stage. So it appears that student plans are really stabilizing, but there's still a significant amount of question and trepidation, and students are still, even though many report having made their deposits or multiple deposits in certain cases, there is still a big chance with a plurality of students that they may change what they're going to do. And that's just an important thing for all of us to know. Talking a little bit about the methodology of our surveys, we conducted surveys in March, April, May, and just recently over the past 10 days. Each time we survey about 500 to 600 college-going students. We use representative samples of high school students. There is a slight overrepresentation in the data of four-year students, and we do phone and email polling. Okay. So what are students? So what are incoming students? Students are going to college this fall saying. We talked about the disillusionment, and we talked about the percent that are still unsure. 68% of students are very concerned about value. Now, some of that is the value that they're going to receive in the short term in terms of, are they going to be able to actually gain the benefits of getting a campus-based education? But a lot of it is, am I going to get a job? Is this going to be worth it at the end of the day? Students want change. They do embrace some of the benefits of online learning. The vast majority, about 91%, reported that the way virtual learning has been delivered for them at the end of high school has been poor or very poor. But they also want some normalcy. Normalcy is a very important theme for these students, and that continues to increase with each survey. Students are also telling us that testing is perceived to be unfair. So we also have surveyed students that are in lower classes in high school, meaning that they are freshmen, sophomores, and rising seniors versus graduating seniors. Okay, and about 84% of students report that they perceive standardized testing, to be unfair. Okay, and that seems to be an authentic gesture in that there were some students that simply didn't want to be tested. But the vast majority of students have a very strong feeling that testing is unfair. They've also reported that, and this is rising seniors specifically, that they feel barraged by all the marketing messages that they get from colleges, and they're ignoring the noise. Students completing the 9th and 10th grades, however, would welcome more engagement from colleges. They would love to hear from colleges, whereas you have the exact opposite with rising seniors. Students believe higher ed will look quite different by the time they go to school, and about 88% of underclassmen in high school are very concerned about the ROI they'll get when they go to college. All right. So what does this mean? What does this mean on a day-to-day basis? How can we do things differently? What do we need to do to address this? Pivot. Supplement search. A lot of students are not in the search databases, and that is just going to increase over time. Engage earlier. Students are telling us that they want to be engaged earlier than they traditionally have been, and they welcome that engagement versus students that are rising seniors that are feeling barraged. Students want truly personalized and deeper engagement. They continue to tell us, rising seniors specifically, that what they get does not connect with them personally, does not connect with their situations and their needs. And innovate. Okay, we have to do things differently, smarter, and differentiate ourselves. With that, I'm going to introduce our CEO, JP Novin, who's going to talk about how we can innovate. One of the ways we can innovate and strongly address some of the things our students are telling us. JP?
Well, thank you, John, and thank you, Amanda and team. Thanks for having us here today. We've been talking to maybe a couple of hundred university presidents and thousands of students in the past few months, and it's really hard to talk about innovation and not talk about the period of time that we live in. So, if we just go back a little bit, if you go back to the Renaissance when information was doubling every 250 years, that was incredible. Because before that, information and the library of information was doubling every 1,500 years. So 250 years seemed like very radical. Now, I know you're all familiar with Moore's Law, and as we start looking at data with the advent of internet, data started doubling every 1 to 2 years. Well, now data is actually doubling almost every 12 hours, right? The amount of data that has ever been available is doubling every 12 hours. Well, we live in a time when students used to go, they don't go to school just to get information anymore. I mean, maybe even in the 80s and before that, you would go there to get access to library and books and get information. The way students are actually looking at information and career outcome has changed dramatically. And we're seeing that on students' habit in how they look at career and how they think about, some of the career tools that are out there. So one of the things that we're seeing on PLEXUSS is when a student comes on PLEXUSS, first of all, it could be a freshman in high school, it could be an adult learner, it could be an online student. So when they actually come on PLEXUSS, we have over 6 million plus of these students. So the information on PLEXUSS actually is also doubling every month. So we actually adhere to this. We want to continue growing the amount of data available to students. So a student comes on PLEXUSS and they end up actually researching universities. We're seeing them actually talking to a live counselor on a PLEXUSS. But more and more, what we're seeing is they're actually asking questions of other students that are in colleges, alumni. So they want to engage and they want to use their digital footprint to gain more information. But also we're seeing that students' ideas change. So for example, if let's take Jane, for example, Jane comes on PLEXUSS and she's a freshman in high school. And when she's a freshman, she has no clue what she wants to study. And then, she ends up going to, take a few biology classes, maybe does an internship, sees a show and says, something, I want to do nursing. And as time passes by the time that she actually decides what she wants to study, if she's not undecided, she goes through a lot of phases. So on PLEXUSS, we provide career tools, we provide live counseling, we provide the college readiness report, and much more. So one of the things that they get as a student gets from a college readiness report, Jane comes on PLEXUSS, says, I want to study nursing, I want to be a nurse, I want to live in Chicago when I graduate, and really my target is to make $70,000 or more in salary. And so we actually start putting these outputs out for Jane. So Jane, perhaps, these are some other, majors and career outputs that other students who also have thought about nursing have considered. So, what kind of degree do you need to actually make that kind of money? What do you need to study? What are some alternative things that you may want to consider, like public health? As you start thinking about healthcare, what is the next 10-year trajectory when it comes to job growth? Those are all the information the student now has at her fingertip. But then Jane evolves, right? So this is why we're not a big believer that, okay, you buy lead. Lead is just, it's just a picture of time. Really, the life of a student is a motion picture. It evolves and it changes. So now Jane takes a few more classes, and before you know it, she wants to study English. So she says, tell me, what does the world look like if I want to study English and I want to, move to St. Louis, for example, right? So Brad, if you go to the next slide, she gets a couple of ideas about, you could go into creative writing, you could go into teaching, but the salary becomes less. And you also need to really pursue a PhD. This is what the median salary actually looks like. So let's go to the messy graph, Brad. I want to kind of share what we're seeing across PLEXUSS. So I'll try to explain this and make sense of this mess. So, we are not just providing this incredible product with millions of URLs and live support and students, and it's a messy process, but we're also providing very clear data to students as far as what is going on. And part of that data tells the student that, look, this is the salary, this is the job growth, this is the change and job opening in the next coming year. So if you're a university, yes, we work with you in thinking about the next 12 to 24 months. But I think it's really important to start looking at the next 10 years as well, right? These are universities who are able to adapt and look into the future are the ones who are actually going to have a sustainable place in this economy. So currently on PLEXUSS, we see a lot of people who are interested to become registered nurse, computer engineering, analysts, market researchers. Those are very popular majors across PLEXUSS, and we give a lot of data about that. But once we actually started, looking at data much, much deeper, and this was a very long activity for us, we're seeing the jobs that are sustainable, that are going to be paying a lot, really emerge into certain fields. So for example, artificial intelligence, statistical analysts, operational management. Now, the operational management part kind of surprised us because we thought about it. So what is going on? Why is this really the trend that's going on? And then we started looking at manufacturing. So if you look at, a lot of the manufacturers used to have thousands of employees, right? Now they might have 50 people who are actually managing a lot of robots and robotics, right? We think artificial intelligence and stats and robotics is just going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. So if you think about hospitals, healthcare, transportation, programmers, but robots just don't build themselves, at least not yet. They're going to need people. And so we're seeing a lot of the jobs in the next 10 years going towards actually how do we not just automate processes, but actually build robots to do a lot of the works that humans do. And frankly, it's not going to be immigrations that's going to take a lot of people's jobs. It's going to actually be a lot of the robotics. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that humanities and social sciences have no place. They actually have a very special place. If it's done strategically, there's a big room for sociology and humanities and what have you. So with having said that, I'll have Brad wrap this up, but data is extremely important, and planning for the next 10 years is even more important. So Brad, with that, I hand it to you.
Excellent. Hey, JP, thank you so much. John, both of you, great information. Just in closing, so let's highlight some of the key points that have been discussed today. We talked about customized engagement, early engagement, and giving your students the ability to connect and engage with students, and doing it in a way where you can connect them with live and also virtual counselors so they're college ready. Connect them with alumni to share experiences from your institution. And then also connect them with over 6 million students that are all sharing the same experiences in preparing for college and choosing a college that's right for them. The other thing that I think is important is use data-driven insight to help drive positive student outcomes. That's so critical. And as we look at the last slide, how can we help? What does this look like as far as our partnership with Capture, and what can we do? Well, at the end of the day, we can help be a strategic partner that help builds and executes a blueprint for enrollment growth and sustainability. So we will help your institution compete in a crowded market and help realize growth and long-term viability. And at the end of the day, also help your students succeed. So we want to thank you very much for your time. I've left my email address here. If there's any questions, we want to thank you very much for the opportunity, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Hey guys, Brad, John, JP, thank you so much for sharing all of that great information. As always, it is critical, right, to understand not only the journey of students, but what they are journeying into in the market, and how, as enrollment professionals, we can connect those dots. I'm fascinated, right, by the survey work that you've done, particularly in the last several months, right? If we take a look at the survey that and the results that you gathered in May and in April, right, and then your most recent, talk to us a little bit about any of the changes in perception or changes in needs that students are expressing from early in the COVID period to today?
Well, I think three things. First, the level of confidence in the education system. Again, it's gone from a degradation of about 72% initially back in March to 85%. Less confidence now. So that's number one. Number two, students are open. They don't like the quality they've received, but they are open, and they are even more open now to true online education. All right, so fully online degree programs. We've seen an increase from before this occurred. There are about 9% of students who had an interest in that, traditional students. Now we see that at about 24%. So that's very significant as well. And luckily, we see a lot of students starting to cement what their plans are going to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fantastic. Len, do you have questions for the PLEXUSS crew?
I think one of the most important statements, and it really aligns nicely with our company, is the importance of the journey. That, as we think about the student and interest, this is one of the biggest decisions they're going to make in their lives. And to have data points that represent that entire journey and just not one particular component. And when you have all those data elements, how you're able to create the valuable connection and the right connection with the student, right? That alignment between the institution and the student. And just really nicely done about really talking about all the different data points along that journey.
Absolutely. Amanda, you've done a lot. Oh, I'm sorry, Brad.
No, I was just going to say, and if I could just, add to that, I think the fact that students now are really asking for customized, engaged communication, and that recruitment has started earlier. These students want to be engaged as early as freshman and sophomore year. And I think what's nice about that is it really also allows schools to really focus on efforts, not just putting bodies in seats for the next term, but also thinking ahead and thinking about future viability and what that means years ahead.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that is striking to me, right, as we step back and look at the work that's being done in the enrollment industry in the last several months and looking forward to the next several, right, as we enter into the fall term. And yesterday we talked about React, right? That is where we have been. We need to move into reconnect and re-energize in thinking about future classes, right? We have to be able to begin building for the future for our institutions. I think the connection between strategically selecting, right, within the search process, finding the right fit individual for your institution that will have the propensity for conversion, and more importantly, the follow-on pieces of that. What are the engagement strategies that you're going to put in play to ensure that those students receive the kind of information that they're looking for when they're looking for it? And I think that's a critical question that we need to ask ourselves as enrollment professionals, and understanding that we've now created a new norm, right? In your survey results, we're hearing the echoes of student voices saying, I actually like this online engagement stuff. I want to be on campus, but I'm going to need this too. And so how do we change our business model, right? Or adjust and adapt and innovate within those concepts and ideas? Amanda, do you have, I know you've spent a lot of time with John, Brad, and JP, questions for them or anything that you'd like to add?
Sure. So the one thing about the platform that I think is really helpful to students is being able to compare out what type of programs and jobs are available at schools when they're looking for those outcomes. I know the first time they showed it to me, I thought, oh, wow, I wish I had this, because my undergrad degree was in communication with a minor in business and a minor in religion. And I remember my dad saying to me, like, what are you going to be, a televangelist? So I think that this gives us a lot of different options for students to look at to understand what they can do at particular institutions. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you for being our partner. and reach out to myself or Brad if you have any questions about how PLEXUSS can help our capture partners.
Thank you for all.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you all.